working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. A Myanmar military jet has crashed in the east of the country. The junta says it was due to engine failure, but anti-coup fighters claim they shot it down. The Philippine Coast Guard has vowed to continue resupply missions to its outposts in the disputed South China Sea despite Chinese harassment. Admiral Ronnie Gil-Gavin said the Coast Guard will not be deterred in exercising its legal rights over the contested waters. Speaking at the New Economy Forum in Singapore, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton criticized Chinese President Xi Jinping's decision to remain in power. She said the move had created challenges for China's system, leading to economic problems and the removal of top officials. And U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to meet face-to-face on Wednesday at the APEC summit in the Bay Area. The meeting will be a closely watched event as tensions between the two superpowers continue to rise. A Myanmar military jet has crashed in the east of the country. The junta says it was due to engine failure, but anti-coup fighters claim they shot it down. The country has been in conflict since the 2021 military coup. Armed ethnic groups are battling the junta on different fronts. The jet crashed on Saturday between the eastern Cayenne and Kaya states. It was carrying two pilots who were both in contact with the military. The Karenni Nationalities Defense Force, or KNDF, claims to have shot down the plane, but the junta denies this. The KNDF is one of many groups fighting to restore democracy in Myanmar. The violence has displaced almost 50,000 people in Shan State. A Philippine Coast Guard rubber boat carrying journalists was chased by 3 Chinese speedboats as it approached a grounded Philippine Navy vessel in the disputed South China Sea. The incident occurred near 2nd Thomas Shoal in the Spratly Islands on Friday. The pursuit ended when Philippine Navy inflatable speedboats deployed from the BRP Sierra Madre blocked the approaching Chinese vessels. Resupply and rotation missions to the BRP Sierra Madre have become a frequent source of diplomatic friction between the two countries. Manila accuses Chinese vessels of harassing and blocking Philippine boats delivering food, water, and materials for repairs. Several countries have expressed their support for the Philippines and condemned China's dangerous actions in the West Philippine Sea. The U.S., Australia, Japan, the United Kingdom, the European Union, the Netherlands, Germany, and France have all voiced their support for international law, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and the 2016 Arbitral Award. Beijing, which has urged Manila to remove the BRP Sierra Madre ship, insists that the Philippine vessels are infringing on China's territorial sovereignty.
5 vessels from the Philippine side intruded into Nansha Qingdao and the adjacent waters, severely undermining China's sovereignty, and we have taken measures necessary to have law enforcement of law, and we have lodged serious representation to relevant departments. And Renaijiao is a part of China's Nansha Qingdao, and the Philippines' action is a serious infringement of international law and the DOC. China firmly opposes that. China urges the Philippines to stop immediately the provocations on the sea and take away the grounded vessel. And China will continue to take measures necessary based on law to maintain, to safeguard our territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests.
But PCG Commandant Admiral Ronnie Gil-Gavin told reporters that they remained unflinching in performing their duties despite the challenges posed by China.
This is part of the Philippine government's legitimate exercise of its rights and obligations and administrative functions consistent with international law. The Philippine Coast Guard will not be deterred from implementing the President's explicit guidance for the Philippines to exercise our legal rights and over our maritime zone.
We don't want the Chinese government to still continuously argue that they have the total control of Ayungin Shoal.
Meanwhile, Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has downplayed the likelihood of an imminent conflict over Taiwan in a speech at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum in Singapore. Mr. Lee said that China is not trigger-happy about taking over Taiwan and that the world is not going to wake up one day and find that they've decided to launch D-Day.
I don't think the Chinese would ever have thought lightly about going into Taiwan. They must surely know, and they have soldiers and sailors and airmen who will advise them that an amphibious attacking Taiwan is not like doing Iwo Jima, and Iwo Jima was bloody enough. So I'm sure they must make their calculations, but I don't believe that they are trigger happy. They have a problem. They would like Taiwan to be part of one China, but how to get from here to there? And I believe if they are not provoked, if events don't spin out of control, I don't believe that you're going to wake up one day and find that they've decided to launch D-Day.
In addition to Taiwan, Lee said that South China Sea claims are another flashpoint, noting 4 ASEAN countries' South China Sea claims that overlap with China's.
That's another possible flashpoint because four ASEAN countries have claims in the South China Sea which overlap with Chinese claims. Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam. All of them want to work some arrangement out between themselves in the first place and with China mostest, because China is really the biggest claimant and most muscular. But at the same time, all of them have got other stakes with China. They are trading with China. China is their biggest trading partner, I think, for all of them. And therefore, this is not, the South China Sea is important, but it is not the only thing at stake. And I do not believe that any of them really, truly want to push it over the brink.
But nobody ever does on the whole, Putin being
nobody ever does on the whole, but I would say that in the case of the Southeast Asian countries, their awareness of what the Soviets used to call the correlation of forces.
Yes.
In other words, who's on your side and who was on my side and whose battalions are bigger. I think there's a very healthy sense of realism, and therefore some restraints will be there. And even the Filipinos, I mean, the Americans are their treaty ally, but are you sure you want to get into a fight where you will be the battleground?
Lee's comments come ahead of an expected meeting between President Xi Jinping and Joe Biden next week in California, or this week in California. Lee said that the talks are a positive development, but that they will not resolve all of the challenges in the relationship between the world's 2 biggest economies.
They met last year in Bali. It was a good meeting. They agreed on some principles that they would respect each other, they would cooperate, it would be win-win. But after that, in 12 months, in fact less than that, events happened and things went off track. And they're trying to put it back on track again, and I think there's a lot of toing and froing to tee it up so that the meeting can take place and be productive. But I think that this is a very deep contradiction between the 2 countries, and you need a meeting to head in the right direction, but you do not expect a meeting to make everything sweetness and light again. It's not possible.
Former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has expressed hope that Chinese President Xi Jinping will seek cooperation with President Biden at their upcoming meeting in San Francisco. She added that she believes Biden will be a receptive partner if Mr. Xi is willing to cooperate.
There hasn't been as much interaction until relatively recently between the Chinese and the United States governments. There has been a real chill coming from China about businesses, American businesses, other businesses inside China. And then there are, of course, political pressures against China within our own political system. So this meeting is a terrific opportunity to try to reset the table, so to speak, to try to create some opening. But it has to be followed up on with a lot more interactions. I was very pleased that Secretaries Yellen and Raimondo and others have been going to China in recent weeks. I think a lot of what happens in the future really depends upon what Xi Jinping's goals are. Part of what I hope will come out of this meeting is an attitude by President Xi that he wants to get back to some kind of regular order. That he sees it in China's interest to really dig in with President Biden, develop a platform for discussions, for problem solving, look for ways to cooperate on whether it's climate change or other matters that may be of mutual interest to us. Really sending that signal. I think he will find a receptive partner with President Biden if that's available.
And the former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has also criticized Chinese President Xi Jinping's decision to remain in power. Speaking in Singapore's Bloomberg New Economy Forum, she said that Xi's decision to end the two-term limit for Chinese presidents had created challenges for China's system, evident in economic problems and the removal of top officials.
Part of the reason it was, somewhat more positive when I was there, and we had a very regular set of meetings, is because Hu Jintao was a Chinese leader who decided he would not stay for life. He would fulfill his term. He would follow the guidance of the Chinese Communist Party. There would be a transition, a new group of leaders, some holdovers, but, other new faces would be in power. And so there could be a constant renewing of both the Chinese government and, through that, the American relationship. Once Xi Jinping decided to stay in office for life, that creates a lot of, challenges within their own system. And I think we're seeing some of that with the removal of top officials, some of the economic problems in the Chinese economy, but it also creates a kind of chilling effect in terms of relations. I mean, how do you deal with somebody who's not going to be held accountable? Their system of accountability was certainly different from ours, but it existed.
In a wide-ranging remarks, Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong also underscored the necessity of a two-state solution for enduring peace between Israelis and Palestinians.
There is no alternative to that. It's very difficult. It looks way over the horizon. But the alternative to a two-state solution is a one-state solution. And that means one side or the other has to be squeezed out. And that is unimaginable. So if you can't work towards a two-state solution, you're going to be in this cycle of mutual destruction for generations to come.
Frankly, in retrospect, it's heartbreaking that Yasser Arafat walked away from the deal that Bill had brokered between Israel and the Palestinian Authority back in 2000. There could have been a Palestinian state on up to 97% of the land from the 1948 division that would have been in existence for 23 years now. So I think you have to create the environment in which there is a chance to revitalize the peace process and a potential for a two-state solution. Hamas is not interested in a two-state solution. They are dedicated to the destruction of Israel. That is in their charter. If you've been watching lots of different outlets over the last month, that is what the leaders of Hamas say. They want to destroy Israel. So Hamas is not a partner for any kind of peace or two-state solution, but the Palestinian Authority might one time again be. New leadership in Gaza might again be. So you have to get to a point where that's possible.
In the latest developments in the Middle East, Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City is the latest health facility in the enclave to report it is no longer operational due to a lack of fuel and power.
جميع مستشفيات محافظة غزة والشمال خرجت عن الخدمة ما عدا مجمع الشفاء الطبي والأندونيسي الذين يتم استهدافهم إلى الآن بشكل مباشر ولا يجد الآلاف من مرضى قطاع غزة أي مكان ليذهبوا إليه سوى هذه الأماكن.
The situation on the ground is impossible to describe. Hospital corridors crammed with the injured, the sick, the dying, morgues overflowing, surgery without anesthesia, tens of thousands of displaced people sheltering at hospitals.
As the situation around the hospitals is changing by the minute. Displaced people at the hospitals are getting shot at as we speak. During the last call with my colleagues at Al-Quds Hospital 2 hours ago, they told me that 20 people have been injured by direct firing at the hospital. One person has been killed.
Hospitals have become Israelis' primary target. They are besieged and their vicinity bombed. But what we should say to them from the Security Council, stop the massacre. Anyone, WHO, can and must act now to stop these massacres.
Over a week ago, Israel formed a task force to establish field hospitals in southern Gaza for all those in need. This team is in touch with countries around the world, and we are already seeing progress. There is no clearer proof that Israel is doing everything possible to provide solutions to mitigate civilian harm. Israel will continue targeting Hamas while working towards solutions for Gazan civilians. This should be the focus of this meeting and not anything else.
Israel's ministry has offered to evacuate babies from Al-Shifa Hospital, where officials from the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry has said that 2 newborns have died. And the Palestinian Minister of Health have said 12 people have died after its fuel and power in the hospital ran out.
We're speaking directly and regularly with the hospital staff. The staff of the Shifa Hospital has requested that tomorrow we will help the babies in the pediatric department to get to a safer hospital. We will provide the assistance needed.
Medical charity MSF International released an audio recording of a surgeon at Gaza City's Al-Shifa Hospital. Dr. Mohammed Obeid says dozens of babies are in need of urgent evacuation and that the situation is very bad.
There is no electricity actually, there is no water, there is no food, so our team is exhausted. We have 2 neonate patients die actually because the incubator it's not working because there is no electricity. Also, we have the adult patient in the ICU. He died because the ventilator is shut down because there is no electricity. Situation, as I said before, very, very bad. We are nearly sure that we are alone now. No one hears us. But we want someone to give us the guarantee that they can evacuate the patient because we have about 600 inpatient person who need a medical care and who need to evacuation. The problem is to be sure that we can evacuate the neonate patient because we have about 37 to 40 cases of the neonate, the premature baby. We have about 17 other patients in the ICU, and we have about 600 admitted patients pretty operated which need a medical care. So situation is very, very bad. We need help. No one hears us.
The Israeli military has also denied accusations it attacked the hospital, the largest in the territory, but has acknowledged clashes with Hamas fighters in the area. The Israeli military has repeatedly accused Hamas of operating from tunnels underneath the hospitals. In a recent move, the U.S. has conducted airstrikes against Iranian-backed groups in eastern Syria, targeting a training facility and a safe house. Now, this action serves as the latest response from the Pentagon to a surge in attacks on U.S. forces perpetrated by Iranian-backed groups. Now, this marks the third time in less than 3 weeks that the U.S. military has targeted locations in Syria linked to Iran, which supports various armed groups that Washington holds responsible for the escalating attacks on its forces in the Middle East. On Wednesday, the U.S. targeted a Tehran-affiliated weapons storage site in Syria, followed by 2 facilities in the country on October 26 that it identified as being used by Iran and affiliated organizations. The U.S. maintains that these strikes are aimed at deterring attacks on American forces in Iraq and Syria, which have surpassed 45 since October 17, resulting in injuries to dozens of U.S. personnel.
We have used a combination of deterrence, pressure, and diplomacy to counter Iran's destabilizing activities. We sent a very loud and direct deterrence message to Iran about our willingness to vigorously protect our personnel and our interests. So we've been very clear that, one, we will take any steps possible to protect our personnel and our interests in the region. But additionally, we have been very clear to countries in the region that we are incredibly keen on ensuring that this conflict does not spread.
In a statement, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin reaffirmed that the U.S. will defend itself and its personnel. The U.S. military has recorded at least 47 attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria since October 17. On the same day as the airstrikes in Syria, the Pentagon had announced that 5 American service members were killed when a helicopter crashed into the Mediterranean during a training exercise. Military officials did not specify where the helicopter was flying from, but the U.S. has deployed a carrier strike group to the Mediterranean as part of efforts to prevent the Israel-Hamas war from spiraling into a regional conflict. In tonight's other news, Papua New Guinea has officially welcomed a global gold company to the country. This recent investment is expected to create new jobs and boost the economy. The government is also optimistic that the new company will bring in much-needed enterprise and resources. Ecor Telesa Quinola reports from Port Moresby.
Newmont Corporation's Chief Development Officer Peter Thought announces the company's acquisition of all Newcrest operations. This includes the Lihir mining in New Ireland and the Wafi Gulpu project in Morobe. Prime Minister James Marape says the coming of this gold company affirms that Papua New Guinea is an investment destination.
In any case, the PNG business is not affected. In fact, this adds value to our PNG interests. We have a keen interest in what's happening in Lihir. We want Lihir to be ongoing, productions in Lihir to be maintained, return on investment. Not just to Newmont now, but to the economy, to our country. Wherever we can collect from must be collected.
Newmont Company will conduct an initial public offering to the Port Moresby Stock Exchange. This allows the public to purchase shares of stocks to the value of 100 million kina. Marape also announces the local employment will increase.
Newmont now brings into the table their own characteristics, their own presence in our country. It just, again, for our country, it adds value to our global branding as a good investment destination. What this country effectively has now is the address of the world's #1 gold company. And guess what? The #2 gold company is Barrick. So we got the #1 and #2 in our country. Anyone ever thinks PNG is not a safe investment destination? The fact that Newmont decided to come in and acquire Newcrest and also be part of our country, knowing very well.
He encourages the country to purchase locally to further stimulate the economy. From Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Now, despite challenges, Papua New Guinea small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, are flourishing as the country expands its reach into the global market. Now, these businesses are playing a crucial role in driving economic growth and creating employment opportunities. Eko Hortaleza Quinola is back with this report.
The small medium enterprise, or SME, in Papua New Guinea is on the rise. With the recently concluded World Indigenous Business Forum, global connections were established.
It's a tremendous opportunity for folks to share different kinds of experiences and look for ways to kind of partner on things. The Indigenous world is worth a lot of money. We need to start to figure out ways where we can capture more of our economy.
Papua New Guinea products and tourism promise strong potential for growth and recognition.
We stand to attract more tourists into our country. When you want your country to grow, tourism is a big economic sector.
The government commits to make platforms available to SMEs, giving them the chance to evolve and thrive both in the local and global markets.
We needed the exposure, and we got that. We built business relationships. We were able to forge partnerships and then meet potential clients and customers. So it was a success for us.
Our coffee is from the highlands of Koilala. We're already overseas as well. IGP is also in Dubai. So our daughter is there. There's 3 of them. 2 are here who look after the Port Moresby branch, and 1 looks after the Dubai branch.
From Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Indonesia has taken a significant step towards its goal of transitioning to green, renewable energy with the inauguration of a $100 million floating solar farm. The Sirata floating solar farm, built on a 200-hectare reservoir in West Java, is expected to generate enough electricity to power 50,000 households. Watch this.
Saya ingin nantinya seluruh potensi energi baru terbarukan yang ada di Indonesia bisa kita manfaatkan, dan saya yakin pasti bisa karena sekarang teknologinya sudah ada. Misalnya di pembangkit surya ini juga ada pembangkit angin. Dalam prosesnya ada tantangan cuaca memang, tapi bisa kita atasi dengan membangun smart grid sehingga meskipun cuaca berubah-ubah, listriknya tetap stabil.
As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alba Angeles. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.